Hello Pop Teens! Welcome to our EduCast, where every student can grasp variety of learnings, such as science, mathematics, history, and more, in a podcast. To start our discussion for today, what is your most favorite subject?
Physical science.
Do you guys perhaps know Galileo and Newton?
Yes.
That's great, because our topic for today is the different view of inertia. To start, what is an inertia? Inertia is a tendency of an object that keeps on moving or staying still. For example, bola nga paligid sa plywood. Ana nga plywood like an inclined plane. As you can see, that is what inertia works. An object tries to keep on doing what it's already doing, like moving or staying still. Di ba gipaligid na to ang bola sa plywood? Gihunong lang siya kaya na may disrupted. Na-disrupt siya sa cabinet. Nausa man ang bola, di ba nag-bounce siya, nag-stop eventually. We all knew that Isaac Newton discovered the law of motion, di ba? Let's first dig up some information about Isaac Newton. He came up with these laws of motion. A lot of great thinkers have already laid the foundation for the study of force and motion, and one of them was the Greek philosopher Aristotle. For example, objects made of wood, rock, and metal tend to seek out the earth as that is their natural place to be. Tanan daw nga naa sa earth like kanang murag resulta gani sa earth like rock, di ba naman sila yung natural place like kanang ana ra jud nakabutas ra diya. A motion that is naturally moved. So, ang naado sa mga resulta sa earth kay naado sila natural motion. Meaning, ang natural motion kay a motion that is naturally moved. Just for example, a rushing river. Karang natural na lang paglihok ba? But when a stone is lifted or thrown, if kanada hilabtan nimo ang stone, kay it goes against its natural motion, and so he called it violent motion. Kadung natural motion kay natural lang, di ba? Pero if hilabtan to nimo nga natural na motion, ngayon mo siya katawag ka violent motion.
So, pagka nang ang hangin ay ang isa ka puno kanang sa sanga niya kana mag di ba magkuan man na magkaway-kaway. So, violent motion na siya or natural motion?
Violent motion siya kay giliyok na sa hangin. Violent motion just means an external force is applied to move objects. So, di ba, kada mong gingon nga ansa nga, kada hangin, giano-ano siya sa ansa, giano-ano niya ang kanang mga leaves, ano to siya kanang force, natural force. Sige na pa example, a ball rolling across the ground. It eventually comes to rest, ana si Aristotle. Since wala naman taga-exert of force sa kadong galihok na bola, ana siya, wala daw tayo kanang, wala daw tayo kanang labot ato. So, siya mo rest lang daw siya, mo stop lang daw siya sa natural place. This, however, was proven to be not true, dili siya tinuod. Because objects in motion comes to rest due to friction. Mo stop lang siya kay naa may friction. So, friction, yung mean niya kanang resistance gani sa force. Kung example, mo ni ang force, mo ni siya ang friction. Murag, di ba, mag-ana mo sila.
May magsugat.
Magsugat. Ang resulta na nila mag-stop. Stop niya.
So, dili jud ay deserve sa kana nabutang na mo stop. Na jud ay kanang force na mo exert ana para mahulong siya.
So, because of the absence of friction, objects in motion remain in motion. This is what inertia is all about. So, if wala day friction, continue lang daw lihok ang object. So, mao na siya ang inertia. So, everyone, remember, inertia is not a force. Inertia is when an object resists changes to how it's moving. Inertia is dependent on mass, which means that the greater mass an object has, the greater its inertia will be. So, kung bugat daw ang kanang butang, mas bugat po daw ang inertia.
Have you ever wondered how to perform inertia?
Yes.
We all know that inertia is an ability object to resist changes in motion. Here are some examples on how to perform inertia. When a driver applied a brake in a car or a bus, So the passenger inside will continue to move forward. This is due to inertia, where the body tends to keep moving in its current direction even the car has come to stop. So ang gi-perform na inertia, which is ang mga passenger na move forward o kusa sila move forward kay even na car na nag-stop na. So, because according to Albert Einstein, nothing's happen until something moves, and that's how to perform inertia. Okay, let's proceed about how did they interpret the concept of inertia. The concept of inertia is a fundamental principle. When we say fundamental, siya ang pangunahin or important. In physics, that was first introduced by Isaac Newton in first law in 17th century. So, ang inertia is pinaka-importante sa physics. We are all know, diba, na ang physics is a study about inorganic world. And si Isaac Newton ang nag-present of inertia through his Newton first law in 17th century. How did they interpret the concept of inertia? The scenario that I gave earlier, which is ang car na mag-apply yan siya brake, tapos mag-move forward ang passenger, katuto siya due to inertia. How does the concept of inertia related to the first law of Newton? The Newton first law is closely related to the concept of inertia. The Newton first law of motion, also known as the law of inertia, states that the object will stay at rest and the object in motion will stay in motion with the same speed and direction unless acted by an external force. So maghatag ko example like ang kanang libro gani na naa sa lamisa, pag kuan siya nara siya, standby lang siya, tapos standby lang or remain at rest. Pag applyan mo siya external force,
Like, pariha ka ng kuan ka ng mapalit siya sa hangin, like ma-open lang siya kay makuha siya sa hangin na igo.
no, external force is kanang, halimbawa, ka nang kuhaon mo or matandog mo. So, mausab ang position sa libro.
So, like sa inguli,
Pwede po.
Open mo siya.
So, the concept of inertia is closely related to the mass of an object. The objects with more mass have a greater inertia, which means they are more resistant to change in their motion. This is why the more difficult to push or to stop the heavy object and compared to the lighter one. So, katong ingon ni Samuya ganina, kung bugat ang object, mas dako ang kung bugat ang mass, mas dako ang inertia. And this is why it's harder to push, which means they are more resistant to change in their motion. This is why it's more difficult to push or to stop the heavy object compared to the lighter one. So, katutang giingon ni Samuya ganina, na pag mas bugat ang mass, mas dako ang inertia sa isa ka. Pag bugat ang mass sa isa ka object, mas dako ang inertia. And that's why it is harder to push a heavy object than a lighter one.
Na pa example lang na. Ganina sa science, di ba ka daw class gani nga
Katong sa jeepney.
Kanto.
Ay, ka sa number 2.
Di ba ni ano man daw ni sharp turn daw ang jeepney nga ano daw ang passengers ni right po daw ni slide sa right. So ang explanation ato ang inertia since nag-slide man siya pa turn pa right ang jeep, nagpa-turn pod sa right ang nagpa-slide pod sa right ang passengers. Mo to siyang gina-explain ni pakakata ng inertia.
That's why it is important to understand and apply the concept of inertia. It's crucial in fields such as mechanics and astronomy, where the behavior of object in motion is studied and analyzed based on the Newton's law of inertia.
Ay, yun ang lagi. Natawaran pa ko ba nga ang first law ni Newton kay law of inertia. So, si Galileo Galilei is an Italian scientist. Sa Italian siya ang first na nag-explain sa concept of inertia. Kay dili siya naga-believe sa Aristotle na idea kada ganina gani nga magano lang daw mag-interest lang daw kag gusto nila. So, he wanted to challenge and disprove the orthodox. He showed that experiment rather than logic is the best test of knowledge. So, nagabuo siya kay hypothesis, iyang sarili knowledge. He wanted to test his hypothesis on motion. So what will happen to the speed and direction of a moving object if there is no interference along its way? Unsa may tabo sa kanang nagaliyok na object if if walay kanang distraction sa iyang agyanan ba? Mag-stop ba siya or mag-continue mag-move? So as you can see guys, nag-ano siya na siya dagdag na unsa man yung mga sa opinion.
Ang sakato siya kay base sa kato galing gi-perform. If ang iyahang kato galing pana
Ang
o kung gikan siya sa incline inclined line. Kung gikan siya sa taas, medyo na siya ikon nga paspas. Pero huwag ka nang straight
Dili siya
lang
kung
siya.
medyo good.
Paspas yun siya.
takiling.
Kung na siya, paana siya, kung isa sa taas, paspas yun siya. Kanya, wala siya distraction. Pero pag ka nang straight to siya, niya, normal lang yung magana. Kasi possibility nga, hinay siya.
Depende rin sa mas.
Depende po siya.
Pero kung to siya ako napansin kay nagano siya nagpaspas siya, nilulutong siya sobrang niya sobrang kataas sa flight.
Depende po siya sa kanang sa position po sa pagkuhan. Dili po siya, depende sa bulo.
So, kuan mo gud pag meron tag space diri if nata sa dalan dili to siya mag-stop lang to siya if na siya yung distraction.
Kung palayan, dito siya.
So guys, have you all wondered how Sir Isaac Newton discovered the inertia?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, today we're going to talk about it. So Sir Isaac Newton is one of the most creative genius in the world had ever seen and the greatest scientist who ever lived. He contributed significantly to the field of science over his lifetime. He invented calculus and provided a clear explanation of optics. But his most significant work had to do with the forces, and specifically with the development of universal law of gravitation and his law of motion. Now let's go back to our topic. So, how did Sir Isaac Newton discover inertia? Sir Isaac Newton discovered the inertia by studying the result of Galileo Galilei, the concept of inertia. Galileo had noticed that smoother surface allow an object to move farther down an incline than rougher ones. Newton then recognized that on a perfect smooth surface, an object could move farther if it did not encounter an opposing force or unbalanced force. By the thoughts of Galileo, Newton din discovered the inertia na if ang surface daw kay walay nakaharang or mga bato-bato, ang butang daw na naglihok na daan is magpadayon na siya og lihok. Like pareha tong itong gi-perform ganina na ang bola nagpadayon na siya og lihok, di ba? Tapos ni stop lang siya kay naigo sa kuan sa bike. So moto na ang butang daw na naglihok na daan is magpadayon siya og lihok if wala siya o if walay nakaharang na mga butang or bato-bato or for friction, walay friction na mo oppose sa kanila butang and if the object is in the state of rest, it will remain in that state unless the unbalanced force exerted on it. Newton also said that force is not necessarily needed to keep the object in motion. A moving object may continue to move because of its inertia. Force only present in this when the object is started to move or change its direction. And when the resting object is started to move. And that's how Sir Isaac Newton discovered the inertia.
So dahil sa studies ni Galileo,
Di-
na-come up po siya iyaha.
Oo, dito niya mas dahil sa study ni Galileo, dito niya dito niya discover ang inertia mas nahatagan niya og explanation na
Mas pinalawak.
clear explanation about sa inertia. So dito niya na-discover ang inertia.
Say difference sa ilang POV or explanation nilang duha ni Galileo and Newton.
Galileo asserted that no force is needed to sustain the horizontal motion of objects. To him, a ball moving horizontally in a frictionless surface would keep on moving and would not stop because of its inertia. While Newton's law of inertia states that if friction or any other force acting on a horizontally moving object is neutralized by an equal and opposite force, resulting in a net external force of zero, the object will continue to move in the same direction. Essentially, to maintain an object's horizontal motion, one must apply a force that counteracts the friction.
So si ang kay Galileo daw, if wala day friction sa kanang ganing horizontal, baka may horizontal ka na lang, pag sa daw, pag kanang bola gani daw, sa pabata tayo bola, naligid siya. O kanang lang siya, kanang ganing plain, walay kanang
May
bato-bato,
distraction.
Kanya, if frictionless siya, kay wala siya dili mo hunong ang bola. Padayon lang siya. Pero if ever nga naay ka ng object or something na force na mag-distract sa bola, dili hunong din siya. While kay Newton, equal and dapat ay na siya equal and opposite na motion sa isa ka butang para muliyok siya and para mag-stop. Ilang similarities mo stop ang isa ka butang if kana na ay external force na mag-hit sa isa ka butang. Ang kay Newton lang kay gi-explain niya tarong kay pag-unbalance ang motion ng force ay ng friction kay mahunong ang bola or mo palayon ang siya mo to di broad explain. So usay niyo hang pabor ang kay Galileo or ang kay Newton.
Even though nga si Galileo din ang sinugdanan anang inertia, mas gi-continue ni Newton ang kana na law. Tapos mas tagalan niya og clear na explanation para gud masabtan nato ang unsa ng inertia.
Unbalanced force kay Newton. Kay lang man kay Galileo kay lang external. May pwede mo siya po external. Basta itong bola di ba kay may
Laigo siya sa
cabinet, di ba niyo Newton nandito siya sa dayon ang stuff. So dapat siya dapat pantay or So what is their contributions about their discover sa inertia ni Galileo and Newton?
So here are some of the contribution of their discovery on inertia. First is foundational concepts of physics. Galileo's observation that the objects will continue to move unless acted upon by an external force. So the law states that an object at rest stays at rest and an object in motion stays at motion with the same speed and same direction unless acted upon by an external force. So it became a cornerstone of classical mechanics.
So about sa ilang na-discover, contribute sila sa mga physical mechanics like machines.
Okay, so second is empirical approach to science. So both Galileo and Newton emphasize an empirical approach to scientific inquiry, relying on experimentation and theoretical analysis to understand physical phenomena. So this methodology was significant shift from the philosophical and somewhat speculative approach that had characterized much of ancient and medieval science.
So, sa ilang na-discover sa inertia, nakapalawak sila sa empirical approach sa science, which is they give more clear explanation sa
Yes.
mga tanan
Itong sa ancient, mas ni Galileo, ancient research pero palawak ni Newton.
Okay.
So third is integration of mathematics with physics. Newton used advanced mathematics to describe and predict the behavior of physical systems. His formulation of the laws of motion and universal gravitation in the mathematical terms na enhance and demonstrate the power of mathematical tools of science leading to the development of classical mechanics.
So habang nag-discover sila Newton nag-experience sila sa concept sa inertia, nagamit sila og kanang advanced tools which is naka-enhance pa sa sa physical science nga sa tingnan
Para masagtan sa human na modern na generation.
Bilis na mga machine.
Nowadays na mas ni enhance ang tool sa science para
experiment sila.
para maka-discover pa
Na
ako.
ginalearn na to ron.
So, fourth is influence on other fields. The understanding of inertia and the broader laws of motion influence many other physics and engineering. Galileo and Newton's contribution of principles became fundamental to the later development of various technologies and machinery in fields of the use of mathematics.
So mo na ilang dako nga contribution kay dahil sa ilang explanation sa inertia nakadagdag sila more on mga kanaganing mga appliances nato, mga mechanical, mga machines, nakadagdag sila labo na sa mga engineering na mga tools.
Tungod sa kang ilang clear na mga explanation about na mas nida ko ang chance na maka-contribute ang ilang mga experiments sa kumano kuan generation.
Dagandag na grasp na knowledge about sa di ba silang different point of views kung sa nila pag-discover and so on. Kabalo na punta ang silang contribution. So, isa kaya atong next na subject sa atong podcast. We will know it next time. Bye!
Bye!